Dwayne Johnson walked onto the stage with his usual confident stride, flashing his signature smile to the cheering audience. At first glance, everything about his appearance on Jimmy Kimmel's show seemed routine. The two began with light-hearted banter, joking about Johnson's fitness regime, his blockbuster movies, and his famous cheat day meals. But the tension subtly began to rise when Kimmel brought up a recent online meme that poked fun at Johnson's acting range. What was meant as a harmless jab quickly turned into an awkward exchange. Dwayne's smile faded slightly as he asked, "So that's what people think now? That I just play the same guy in every movie?" Jimmy chuckled, trying to defuse it, but Dwayne leaned in. "You know, Jimmy, people work hard to be where they are. You think this is all a joke?" The crowd grew quiet, unsure whether this was part of the show or something more serious. Trying to recover, Kimmel moved to a pre-planned segment, pulling out a clip from Johnson's new movie. But the clip was a blooper reel, intended to be funny. Johnson watched the screen with no expression, arms crossed. When it ended, Jimmy said, "Man, even when you mess up, you look like a superhero." Dwayne stared straight ahead, then looked directly at Kimmel. "I didn't come here to be laughed at. I came here to talk about my work, my real work." Kimmel was visibly surprised. "Hey, I'm just trying to keep things light, buddy." Johnson didn't flinch. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe not everything is supposed to be light. The silence in the studio was deafening. The audience, unsure how to react, sat frozen. It was clear something had shifted, and this was no longer the standard celebrity interview. Kimmel tried again, asking about Johnson's rumored interest in politics. "You thinking about a presidential run in 2028? He asked with a grin. But Johnson's response was sharp. "You think it's funny to joke about leadership?" Kimmel's smile faded. "No, I just meant..." Dwayne cut him off. "Leadership is serious. This country's a mess and you make jokes. People are suffering and you get laughs." The temperature on stage dropped instantly. Jimmy held his hands up. Okay, didn't mean to press a nerve." Johnson leaned back but didn't relax. "Every time I come on these shows, I'm expected to dance, smile, laugh, flex, but I have a voice. I have something to say." The audience murmured softly, the tension growing with every second. Jimmy glanced off stage, likely hoping for a signal from his producers, but no help came. At this point, the atmosphere was undeniably uncomfortable. Kimmel asked cautiously, "Well, what is it that you want to say, Dwayne?" Johnson looked around the studio before responding. "People need to stop treating celebrities like clowns. We're not here for your entertainment only. We have opinions, depth, pain, and when we try to speak, you make memes and laugh tracks." The audience sat stunned. Some shifted in their seats. Kimmel, now visibly nervous, said, "Look, man, I respect you. I really do. This show, it's all meant in good fun." Johnson stood up. "Then maybe fun isn't what we need right now. Maybe truth is." The studio remained silent. It was clear the interview had taken a turn no one expected. Johnson didn't sit back down. He remained standing, towering over Kimmel's desk, arms folded. "People come on your show and laugh because they don't want to look bad. They want to fit into the Hollywood machine," Dwayne said. "But I've outgrown that. I've seen too much. I've lived too much." Kimmel nodded slowly, but it was obvious he was unsure what to do next. "Okay, Dwayne, I hear you," he said. "But maybe we should take a break." Johnson shook his head. "No, that's what everyone always wants to do. Take a break. Cut to commercial. Avoid the real stuff." Jimmy's smile was gone now, replaced with a cautious stare. The cameras continued rolling, the audience looking from one man to the other, waiting to see what would happen next. For a few long seconds, nobody spoke. The energy in the room was tight and thick. Then, in a calm but firm voice, Johnson continued, "I've worked my whole life to be taken seriously. I didn't just wake up one day and become The Rock. I fought through pain, loss, and failure to be where I am. But none of that matters when people reduce you to a joke." Kimmel tried to interject with, "That's not what I was trying to do." But Dwayne didn't stop. "You say that now, but every time I walk onto this stage, there's a script. And that script always ends with a laugh at my expense." The audience began to understand this wasn't a joke or a publicity stunt. Johnson was genuinely upset, and his words carried real weight. The producers behind the scenes started talking hurriedly through headsets. This wasn't going according to plan. Jimmy, sensing that the situation might spiral out of control, took a softer approach. "Dwayne, I respect what you're saying, honestly. Maybe I've missed the mark tonight, but we don't have to do this live." Johnson shook his head. "That's the problem. You want it edited, polished, watered down. But real life isn't like that. People out there, your viewers, they need to hear the truth, even if it's uncomfortable." Kimmel looked at the camera, unsure whether to signal for a commercial or let it ride. Dwayne turned to the audience. "You want authenticity? Here it is. I'm not smiling tonight. I'm not cracking jokes. I'm telling you that this industry treats people like products." His voice was steady but powerful. It wasn't rage. It was conviction. Finally, Kimmel tried one more time to bring things back around. "Look, Dwayne, I think we've just gotten a little heated. Let's take a breath." But Johnson stared at him with intensity. "You don't get to decide when it's over, Jimmy. Not this time." With that, he stepped back from the desk and looked toward the exit. Kimmel rose from his seat. "Are you leaving?" Dwayne nodded. "I've said what I needed to say. I'm not going to pretend everything's fine for a round of applause." The audience sat frozen. Johnson walked off the set, stage left, not waiting for any cue. The silence left in his wake was more powerful than any punchline. Jimmy remained at his desk, stunned, eyes following Dwayne's retreating figure. There were no jokes left to make. The next day, clips from the show dominated social media. Opinions were sharply divided. Some applauded Johnson for standing up and speaking his truth. Others thought he overreacted, but most agreed it was the most raw, real moment seen on a late-night show in years. Hashtags trended. Real Talk with The Rock began circulating as fans and critics alike weighed in on what they had witnessed. Johnson's team released no statement. His silence spoke volumes. Kimmel, meanwhile, addressed it briefly in the next episode. "Last night was different," he said. "Maybe it's time we start listening more and laughing less." The crowd responded with quiet claps instead of cheers. A shift had happened. The industry felt it. In the weeks that followed, talk shows took on a slightly different tone. Guests were given more space to speak. Producers instructed hosts to be more aware, more sensitive, more present. Johnson didn't return to any late-night show for a while, but his message lingered. Fans respected him more than ever, not for his muscles, but for his message. The clash with Kimmel wasn't just a celebrity meltdown. It was a mirror, a moment when the entertainment world was forced to confront how it treats its stars. Johnson had shown that sometimes strength isn't in how loud you laugh, but in how firm you stand. And for millions watching, it was a reminder that behind every smile is a story we might not fully understand.